Hello there. This is Coach. We're sitting this morning doing some additions to some of our writings about God's purpose system. And there's so many details of it, and I'm having so much fun doing this. But today we're going to talk about God and a penny. And so much of what we do is God's purpose system. That's our title. And in that title, there's 2 or 3 subtitles. And one of those is God and a penny. And the other one is what a difference a day makes. And this is a blend of both of those things, because it's amazing in our life. I actually turned 77 years old this month. And in my life, like yours, when you really analyze it, there's less than 10 days in your life that really make a difference, that changes things. And so we want to analyze that, and you never know when those days are going to happen. And you're just going through life like I was on the day that this story started. I was up in Greenville, Tennessee, working at a travel club, hiring salespeople for them. And this guy walked in, no different than anybody else was interviewing. But he said, when we started talking about sales and marketing, he said, I've got a golf patent that really, I just can't get it off the ground, can't get it started, but it's awesome. And as soon as the word golf was mentioned, I'm listening, because I am addicted to golf. And so as the minutes went on, he said, well, let me show you. So I walked out to the car with him, and he showed me these golf clubs that he had that was just awesome. I knew the second I saw them, that will sell, and I can sell it. So we cut a deal, and I went down to Columbia, South Carolina. I hunted all over the Southeast for a place we could practice and run a sales out of, and I found a empty clubhouse on a golf course down in Columbia. And I rented that building from the golf course. And that's where we started the golf business. And as we got into it, it was tough, because I didn't have any money, enough to do what I needed to do. So we had to just drag it through. And so that's what we were doing. And this little old building we was in, it was just a small little building, but we started marketing. And we went out and marketed and actually used a box program there in Columbia to start it, where we'd have those boxes put to where we could find a way to bribe you to come and listen to a presentation about golf. So the first month, and these were custom clubs, and it was awesome. First month, I sold 1 set. Second month, I sold 2 sets. Third month, I sold 4 sets. Next month, I sold 8. Right up the line, and it really was making a difference. But we was over here on this golf course, so I had the brilliant idea of, let's just build the world's largest country club. And let's do that inside malls all over this country. So I went over to the mall there in Columbia and rented a space and went in there and put up golf simulators, practice greens, and all the things we needed to do inside that mall. And we were working along, and it was beautiful, everything going good. But anyway, back to the store at the golf course, I had this young couple come in, and they heard what we was doing and how that went. And we also had a travel club that went with these golf clubs. And anyway, this big old guy and his wife, and And kids came in there and they decided, yep, I want to do this. So we built them a custom set of clubs for all of them and give them lessons, because we wouldn't sell golf clubs without lessons. His wife said, now, Mr. McGill, this better be the way you said it, or I'm coming back and you ain't going to like it. Ooh. I said, okay. I said, what do you do for a living? She said, I'm a pastor's wife. Where do you pastor? She told me. I said, what's the address? She told me. I said, I'll be there Sunday. And if it ain't exactly the way he says it, I'll be back and you won't like it. And we laughed. And it was fun. But it was one of them things that it was a God thing, and I knew it. So that Sunday, I showed up at the church, and I heard as good a speaker as I've ever heard in my life. And I am a speaker, not a preacher, a speaker. But this man had a heart this big for lost souls. And it was blatantly obvious that was his mission in life. And so I went that Sunday, and I really enjoyed it. And so that's where I started going to church. And as we're going to church, my whole goal in my life, there's only two buttons in life, ladies and gentlemen, that motivates us. One is need, and the other one's greed. And my greed button has always been a lot bigger than my need button. I was raised dirt poor. I mean poor. But I always had a desire. And so I want to make money. And in this process, I was in the middle of building this golf business. And I just got this store opened. Went from the golf course to the mall. And everybody said, you're crazy. But we did it. And I mean, the credit, because we did everything on credit. In other words, we would sell the people, then we'd sell their sale to a finance company, and we'd get paid. And they that would then pay because it was a pretty good sized ticket. So anyway, that's where we was working. Well, I went to church one Sunday, like any other Sunday, and I was listening to Joe, and he made a statement. He said, we're going to have a seed service on a certain date. I'll just call it August, because I don't remember what the date was. And he said, that seed service is this way. You're going to come in, you're going to come to the altar, and you are going to put in the offering plate whatever God tells you to, and ask for whatever it is that you want that money to be blessed. And I'd even forgot about it, but that was his statement. So I go to church one Sunday morning, and my whole mind is on how in the world can I get in a bigger market than Columbia, South Carolina, to do this business, because I know there's success in this business. So I go to church that Sunday morning, and I'm sitting down, and I had one check in my pocket to pay my tithe with. It's what I do every Sunday. So when Joe got up, he said, this is seed Sunday. We're going to do seeds, and this is how it's going to work. You're going to get up out of your seat, and you're going to come to the altar and bring your check and lay it in the plate on the altar and ask God for whatever blessing you want that to be. And I was sitting there, and I thought, goodness, I don't know about that. But I know the voice of God. I know when he speaks to me. And all this came all the way back to Vietnam, saving my life, because he pulled point for me all the time. George, there's snipers looking at you, buddy. Now, he didn't say buddy, but I got the message. And I learned to react to that voice. And so anyway, there's kind of everything in order, but coming down the aisles and somebody would go, but we was all standing up. And so it come to time for me to go, or the row I was on. So I stepped out in the aisle and I just asked God, how much should I put in this? And he instantly said $5,000. And I said, Lord, you mean 500? No, 5,000. Now hear me. I had $4,900 in the bank. And he's wanting 5,000 in this deal. So I walk up to the front, take the check out of my pocket, and I write it for $5,000. And I held on to it way too long. But I put that check in the offering plate, and I told the Lord, I said, I can't ask you to just bless my business. That's selfish. So, Lord, whatever the need is, I just know the amount. So that's what I did. And I walked back to my seat, and this is where this story begins. I walked back to my seat, and there was nobody sitting right in front of me. And I was just one or two seats in on the pew. But I'm watching Joe, and people are reacting to what he's doing, and all that's good. But anyway, I was looking up at the front where he was at, and then my eyes would drop down in front of me. And under the pew, not the one right in front of me, but the one next one, under that pew, right in front of me, there was a penny laying in the floor. 1 penny. And I looked back at what Joe was doing, because the truth, I wouldn't bend over and pick up a quarter. But anyway, that's just the way that is. But so I kept watching and listening and looking, but my eyes kept going back to that penny. And back to that penny. And I finally got the motives, because I call myself every kind of a stupid fool that I could be called for putting $5,000 in that thing that I need desperately to be doing in business. Need and greed. So anyway, I kept looking at that and looking at it and realized, well, there's something to this. I don't know what. I got up out of my seat, all 280 pounds of me, walked to the pew in front of me, got down on my all fours, and reached under that pew and picked up that penny. And as I did it, I said, I don't have a clue why this is going on. So I got up and went back in my seat, put that penny in my pocket, and Lord have mercy, and knowing that I'm going to have to beat that check to the bank in the morning for it to be good. So there I sat all afternoon and all evening trying to figure out how stupid somebody can be to do that. But, the mall opens in the morning and I got to be at work. So here we go. I'm up, and I was at the bank at 9 o'clock. Put that money in the bank and walked into my store, opened it. And my gal that's there for opening was there that morning. And I in the morning got in the building and was coming up through the simulators, just looking at everything, make sure it's clean and all that stuff. And she said, George, there's a phone call for you. So it was early, as far as business in the mall. So I walked up and answered the phone. And the young lady on the other end said, Mr. McGill? I said, yes. She said, I can't even remember her name. But she said, I'm from Discover Meals in Atlanta. And we are hearing about your store there in Columbia. And they actually did a little write-up in it in the mall magazines that, it's like everything else, and every industry's got one. But anyway, I hadn't paid that much attention to it. But she said, yes. She said, well, we feel like we've got something here that would interest you and we'd like you to come down and look. I said, all right. Now, knowing in my heart, I didn't have the credit or the money to go build a big fancy building and get all this moving. But anyway, I knew I'm supposed to go. So I got in my car and drove to Atlanta. And when I got there and pulled up in the mall, and I was just sitting in the car for a second before I went in, thinking about, well, this is going to be a waste of time. So I walk in that mall, and I meet the leasing agent and the mall manager in their office in the mall. And they were, I mean, beyond cordial and nice and all of that. So they understood a lot about what I was doing already. I don't know where they'd looked at it, but they saw it. So they said, we've got a 5,000 square foot building down the mall here we'd like for you to look at. I said, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I walked down that mall, and it's beautiful. But when they raised the door, and all of them about the same way, they got these metal doors that you can see through, but that's how they secure each building or each shop down there. So they hit the button, and that door raises up. And there is an absolute just finished painting, 5,000 square foot building, floor just painted, walls just painted, and I can see they got a back room in there. But anyway, it was just beautiful to me. And the beauty also was that it was in Atlanta, and I could get stuff financed in Atlanta. So I stepped into that space and was just looking around, and they were quiet as a mouse. They were just watching me watch, I'm sure. But the second step I took, there was 1 penny laying on that floor. 1 penny. Nothing else on that floor space. Nothing. And I almost stepped over it, and then I went, there's something there in that penny. I backed up, reached down, picked the penny up, looked at it, and put it in my pocket. And I looked through that building, and my mind is buzzing with this be good. So we go through the process, and come back out of the building, walk back down to the mall office. And the young lady said, what'd you think of that? I said, I think it'd be perfect for what I'm wanting to do next. She said, we thought you'd say that. Here's the lease. We already got it all filled out. All you need to do is sign it right there. And we're going to give you 90 days before the first payment on this. Sign right there. And you can take over tomorrow. Well, I could have snatched that pen out of her hand, but I tried to refrain from that. So I signed the lease. And I brought 2 of the best guys that's ever been as far as build-outs that was members with me over in Columbia. I brought them over to build this out. And they built that building out and had it ready for what we was going to do in 14 days. Beautiful. So we opened that building, and the first month we did $86,000. And I can't tell you how exciting that was. And, as time went on, that actually grew naturally, but that was just beautiful. But the second month I was there, I got a call one morning from Opry Mills Mall in Nashville, which was the flagship of the Mills Corporation. And that mall was beyond beautiful. It's just, and basically the same story. Mr. McGill, we're seeing what you're doing down there. We'd like for you to come up here and look at our mall and see if you can find some interest. Now, the space in Atlanta was 5,000 square feet. When I went up to Nashville, met the leasing agent, the mall manager. We walked down that mall and I was drooling all the way down the mall because it was just humming. And ladies and gentlemen, this is enough years ago that malls were absolutely the cat's meow. I mean, it was awesome. So they opened the door on this space. And when it opened, it was the same scenario, just painted. Everything was beautiful. 12,000 square feet. And when my mind started painting those pictures of how many simulators and how I can make all this look like a country club inside this building. But as I stepped in, there was one penny laying on the floor with nothing else on it anywhere. When I reached down and picked that penny up, put it in my pocket, we walked back down to the mall. How do you like it? I love it. We thought you would. Got the lease already filled out right here. Sign it right down there. Now, this lease was going to be $12,000 a month. It's a lot of money. I signed it, brought my same two guys to build that out. But when I opened that store, because I wanted to partnership or franchise Kiss Golf. And so I decided that I am going to operate this store myself just like I was a partner in Kiss Golf and see how we can do. So I went in there and went to work. And ladies and gentlemen, the first year, we net $986,000. Net. Totally excited. And then we went to Charlotte, North Carolina. We went up to Illinois. But the first 6 stores that I opened, I went in, and hear me, ain't no way in the world this could happen as it did. Every one of those stores that I went in to lease, there was one penny laying in the floor. Confirmation from God. There's no describing how awesome that is. And so, there we do. Open this, open that, open that. And this was an 05, 6, and 7, and 8. And by the time 07 was there, we was doing $20 million a year in the stores we had opened. And I signed leases on 4 or 5 more stores for the next year because I could see it's unbelievable what we can do. But we're in there running these numbers, and we're building stores like crazy, and it couldn't ask for it to be any better. I had 150 employees. I had 46 people doing telemarketing for those stores. It was just unbelievable, but fun. But we were building custom clubs, and I'd walk in that store some Monday mornings, and they would be orders for 100 sets of clubs to be built this week. And goodness. And they were averaging about $3,000 a set, so the math is there. So as we was doing this, and I tried to take my guys golfing as often as I could, but I mean, everything was good. And, but it was like June of 08, we were playing golf there in Nashville, and I had the guy that's the president of my company and my CFO and several was out playing. There's 2 foursomes of us. But the foursome I was playing with, we were somewhere on the front side there at the golf course in Nashville. And we're all laughing, having fun. but was on the green. And I missed about a 2-foot downhill putt. And I mean, I got fried. How can you miss that putt? That's golf. But I missed it, and when I did something you never do. I took my putter, and for example, all the carts and everything's back here behind me, but I took my putter and just slung it forward. There wasn't nothing there but the rest of some grass out there and then a tree line. But I slung my putter out through there. And again, it's something you never do. But all the guys laughed at me because I was pitching a little temper tantrum. But I went to pick my putter up. Now this is important. And when I walked down there, we're in the middle of 400-acre golf course, however big it was, golf course. And I reached down and picked my putter up. I reached up, got the handle, and I lifted it up. And under that handle, there was 1 penny laying under the handle. And it, was so shocking because that's God's confirmation for me, everything I've done for months now. But I picked that penny up, and I probably stood there 2 minutes. But this penny was absolutely demolished. Obviously, it had been hit by the lawnmower, but it was just snarled. And as soon as I picked it up, God told me, rough times are coming. And I walked back to the cart over and I told the guys, I said, I don't know what it is, but it's about to get bad, so get ready for it. Well, in November that year, everything we were doing crashed. And it was a tsunami. It wasn't a little now, a little in one fell swoop. And I saw something later that was the best example I'd ever seen. And that's when the tsunami hit Japan, had it all filmed. Here's all these people over here on shore, laughing, having fun, doing whatever they do, and suddenly, there it comes. And there was no place to run. There's nothing to do. And there I was with all these employees, and that tsunami hit. We could not get any financing. And we had all these commitments and all these people. And it just absolutely gone. And I took every penny I could get, because I just couldn't believe that the banks were out of money. I just couldn't believe that this was, but it was. And I spent everything I had, and I mean everything I had to salvage that. Well, come January of that next year, I had to bankrupt. We bankrupt $16 million. And to bankrupt $16 million, there's a lot going on. And so I got through there, and I can't tell you how depressed. There's no description, no way to even think about it. But that's the way it was. So we stumbled through getting the bankruptcy done and going to all these different creditor meetings and all kinds, and it was just depressing, big time depressing. So in that, it's time to go to the bankruptcy deal. So I go in that courthouse. Now hear me. I had to borrow a car from my mother. I didn't even have a vehicle. I spent it all. But I went into that courthouse and listened to all the stuff, and again, it was depressing. But I walked out of that room, all alone. alone and beyond depressed. And this is not a whine story, it's just the way it was. And I got to my car, my mother's car, and I opened the door. And when I opened the door, there was a dime laying in the running panel of that door. No way in the world that dime could have got where it was at. And God spoke to me one of the 3 times He has literally spoke to me in my life. But He spoke to me. And it was the most peaceful thing I'd ever heard in my life. Not because of anything except it's the voice of God talking to me. And I am one of His children. I'm probably the ugliest one and the most useless one of them. But I'm one of them. And He clearly said this, George, it will be 10 times bigger next time. I picked that dime up, and that was in '09. So it's been 23 years. And I went through every kind of thing I could do to try to just do something to make something happen. But the tale of this story goes all the way back to the day when God said to me, go to work for me. That was 2 of the times that He spoke. Go to work for me. Well, my greed button was huge, and He knew it. So He let me come in there and do what we did and have a net worth of $34 million. Certified. He let me do that. And then the crash took all of that away. So what have I got left? A dime and God. That's all. So we start over. Now, 10 years later, I'm up here in the North Georgia mountains. Most beautiful setting in the world that God provided. And it is just awesome, and I'll write about that sometime, but that ain't today. And now we're embarking on something that I believe is that next time. And it's called this, GPS, God's Purpose System, and MASH, Motivated Army Seeking Heaven. And you'll be able to look on the website just in a couple of days and see all of that. But here's my honest belief with where we are. I believe this is that 10 times. And if that's true, I had 16,000 students at Kiss God. 16,000. Biggest country club in the world. 10 times that is 160,000. So I believe we'll have at least that many born-again conversions with the effort of what we're about to do. Now that's a lot. It's going to take a lot of doings. And I'm an old man. And back when I was doing, literally just had 2 or 3 stores, but that same guy that did the seed service, I went back to church there one Sunday morning because I was now living in Atlanta, so I didn't get to see him. But his message that morning, listen to this. You can do more with God and a penny than you can all the money man ever made. And I just sat there and said, thank you, Lord. And I'm sitting here today saying, thank you, Lord. So, if you don't know the penny man, God, if you don't understand Him speaking, get to know Him. There's nothing more important in my life, your life, and don't care what. There's nothing more important than being born again. And don't try to make it complicated, because it's not. It's as simple as this. Be born again. And all you got to do is believe on Jesus Christ. And when he comes into your heart, you hear me, because my grandma got her finger in my face. You stay in that till you know that you're born again. And you're going to know it. There's not a question. You're going to know it. Things change. Your heart changes. Your attitude changes. And in that change, there's one word that just absolutely, it's called peace. You got peace that you never imagined. And my favorite slogan right now is simply this. We're all going to have some days that, this ain't good. But you'll know that you found peace when you can honestly say this. The worst thing could happen to me today, the worst, is that I die. And in the next breath, you can honestly say this. The best thing that could happen to me today is that I die. And when that's accurate, you have found peace. Because peace eliminates fear. Fear is the thing that absolutely is just devastating. There's a peace about knowing I'm going to heaven. There's a peace about today knowing that God's pulling point for me in my life. And for you that don't understand, point is just something we did in the military. The guy out in front warning you in danger. That's God. That's the Holy Spirit. Look out, there's danger, don't go there. Listen to it. And then that is all in our GPS, God's purposed system. And hear me, he's got a purpose for every one of us. And all you got to do is listen. And you're going to hear it. Now, 3 times in my life, I've heard it out here. But most of the time, I hear it right in here. And it's just peaceful. You just understand it's God. But it's no different than the GPS in your car. If you've got it turned on and you're listening, he'll tell you where to turn, where not to go, how to act and how to react on every scenario that comes your way. Get prepared for it and be born again. And then, if you will, contact us and let us praise with you. You're the most valuable thing in the world, is a soul saying, I'm born again. I am born again. Praise God. I am born again. Because there's nothing more valuable. Now hear me. My bottom line to this story is that this old country boy, when I was worth $34 million, I could do anything that I wanted to do. And God let me be there. Let all that happen. But then, as broke as I could be, he sends me a dime and gives me the encouragement to know, let's go do that again. We got it in us, let's go do it again. This is the old coach saying, I love you. Appreciate you. Be born again.